Okay, the December 21st meeting of the Rancho Simi Recreation and Park District is hereby called to order. Let's stand for the pledge. Mr. Mayor, why don't you lead us in the pledge?
Place your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Director Avila.
Here.
Director Dennert.
Here.
Director Freeman.
Here.
Vice Chair Gray.
Here.
Chair O'Brien.
Here. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Chair, staff has no recommended changes. I did want to note that the first portion of our meeting is ceremonial, and we will be taking a recess and a break for about 20 minutes in between the first and second part of the meetings. I did also want to acknowledge the presence of Mayor Fred Thomas and City Council-wide member Mike Judge and welcome them to our meeting this evening. Thank you.
Welcome, Joe. Okay, item 4, public statements not on the agenda. Would anyone like to speak to anything that is not on the agenda? I have no green cards. Okay. Item 5, approval of minutes. A, Rancho Simi Recreation and Park District Board of Directors meeting December 7th, 2022. Any questions, any changes? All right, I'll move to approve the meetings for the Board of Directors meeting, the minutes for the Board of Directors meeting for December 7th. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Director Avila.
Aye.
Director Dennert.
Yes.
Director Freeman.
Abstain.
Vice Chair Gray.
Aye.
And Chair O'Brien.
Yes. Okay, item 6, consent agenda. Any questions, comments? Would someone like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move approval. Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Director Avila.
Here. Aye.
Director Dennert.
Yes.
Director Freeman.
Yes.
Vice Chair Gray.
Aye.
Chair O'Brien.
Yes. Okay. Item 7, presentations, scheduled items, and public hearings. A, presentation of the 2022 Part-Time Employee of the Year, Kathy Pierce, Administrative Assistant 6, verbal.
Thank you, Chair. Teresa Pennington, the District's Director of Administration, will provide staff's report. Congratulations, Kathy.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, members of the board. Kathy Pierce is the 2022 Part-Time Employee of the Year. She's worked for the district for 28 years and has received 2 Part-Time Employee of the Month awards, as well as the district's first ever Part-Time Employee of the Year in 2012. She's been a dedicated, hardworking employee at the Oak Park Community Center. Her reliability during staffing changes in recent years has been very much appreciated. As an Administrative Assistant 6, Kathy handles bookings, schedules, confirmations, and payments for classes and rentals and does an outstanding job. Her ability to prioritize, coupled with her friendly demeanor, is a perfect fit when working with patrons in person and on the telephone. Thank you, Kathy, and congratulations on this well-deserved recognition.
Chair, I just wanted to note that we have about 400 part-time employees at any given time, and Kathy is one of 400 to win this award, so that's pretty outstanding. Congratulations.
Okay. Okay, do you want to say a few words?
Just thank you. Thank you very, very much. It's greatly appreciated.
Congratulations.
Okay, item B, presentation of the 2022 Full-Time Employee of the Year, Douglas Duran, Landscape Designer, verbal.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Pennington will provide staff's report.
Thank you again. Douglas Duran is the 2022 Full-Time Employee of the Year. He's worked for the district for 22 years. He's received the Employee of the Month award 7 times, and this is his second Employee of the Year award. Douglas is a landscape designer in the planning department. He's well informed on district matters and happily provides information to employees when requested. He always has a smile on his face and is friendly with staff and customers. He has helped out in all departments, from painting a wall at the activity center to assisting with projects in the parks. As mentioned in his nomination form, Douglas worked cooperatively with staff from planning and maintenance and recreation departments and contributed to the successful outcome of the district's Earth Day event. Douglas has made many contributions to the district's beautiful parks and trails. Thank you, Douglas, and congratulations on this well-deserved award.
I just want to thank staff, friends, and colleagues. It's an honor to be nominated as Employee of the Year. I have a great time. I don't call this work. It's fun. Thank you.
I brought with me a slide and swing consultant. My own kids, that's the guy that designed some of our favorite parks.
Item C, administer oath of office to members elected to the Rancho Senior Recreation and Park District Board of Directors as a result of the November 8th, 2022 general election.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Board. Thank you, those that are here this evening. This is a ceremonial and a celebratory evening for us. 2 seats on the Board of Directors were up for election as part of the November 8th, 2022 general election. Board members Avila and Mr. Dinner ran and won their seats to serve another 4-year term on our Board of Directors from December of 2022 through November of 2026. The Clerk Register of Voters of the county has certified the election results. At this time, if I could, I'd like to invite Mayor Thomas up to administer the oath of office. I think we'll start with Mr. Dinner. Then we'll do Mr. Avila. Once we conclude that item, then we'll extend the privilege of the floor to Mr. Dinner and Mr. Avila. Thank you.
Brian, are you going to? I just wanted to say something real quick first, though. It's an honor for me to come here and do this tonight because I've always considered our parks to be one of the brightest jewels of this community. And it's an amazingly good job that this organization does. The current board, the current staff, and all the years in the past building our system, it's one of the things I'm most proud of our city. All set?
I think so.
Okay, I'm going to break it up and make it real easy, okay? Raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Brian Denner,
Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend
do solemnly swear to support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, both foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California.
and the Constitution of the State of California.
That I take this obligation freely,
That I take this obligation freely,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
and I will and faithfully discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
on which I am about to enter.
And that I will, well, listen. Congratulations. All right. Quick photo here.
Ready to take over my family too?
Yes.
Sure.
Thank you.
Director-elect Avila.
Okay, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name,
I, Ed Avila,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties about which I am about to enter.
Congratulations. Here, should I join you?
Can I do another handshake?
Sure, yeah.
Thank you.
Good job.
So Chair, now I'd like to invite Mr. Dinner back up, extend the privilege of the floor for comments, and then we'll do the same for Ed. And then anybody from the public that wants to make public comment or speak will do so after that.
I want to thank my family and in this order. My dad for helping me out on my campaign. And as an example of this, when I first ran, someone came up to him and told him, "You don't stand a chance. There's already 2 people. There's 2 incumbents." And I'm going to thank my dad for never telling me that until the campaign was over, and because he wanted to build up my confidence. The funny thing is, when I was really young, I helped him out with some of his businesses he was starting by passing on flyers. Well, he returned the favor many, many decades later, decades later by helping me pass out my flyers. So thank you, Dad. My sister Debbie is now a teacher. I'm proud of her. I'm a teacher because of her. She taught me about entering a conventional program, and now she's a teacher herself, and I'm really proud of her for that. My sister Kim, who helped with art on my campaign, and when she does art, it reminds me of my mom. My stepdad Mark for showing me an example of selflessness that I've seen in very few people. My wife Melody for sharing my love of the outdoors and all the extra work she did during the campaign, getting kids to where they needed to go. To my own kids for being 2 strong, brave young women. Rory's creative, really like your pen pal letters. And watching you do cheer and taking chances in life. Chloe, you're kind, you're good with young kids, and I learned from you, including our shared love of Corganville. Both of them are growing up so fast, it's almost every day I think about the fact that they're going to move away. Bonnie, Anthony, and Janet, thanks for helping me on my campaign. Ed and fellow board members, Ed and I drove together to go file our paperwork. Officially we're running against each other, but neither of us figured, why would you drive all the way to Ventura when you can just drive with somebody? So a rival and a friend, I said it was good for the environment. He said he was saving money. He didn't officially say that, but I know he was thinking it. Gas prices the way they are and all. But that's how we should treat each other, is we might have different ideas or sometimes the same ideas, but treat each other with respect. Criticism I got during the campaign is somebody just blurted out, "You're becoming friends with him." And I was like, well, I'm trying to get more votes than him. but it doesn't mean we can't be friends. Maybe more of life can be like that. And lastly, to our staff, we're a special district, and you put special in that. It's not just a government technicality term. You put up with us, and I appreciate it, with our best ideas, and we'll say other ideas. We'll just put 2 categories there. And one of the reasons I think Ed and I were successful in the campaign is you make us look good. I think a lot of the community is like, why are you campaigning so hard? Or the Park District's good. And part of it is the leadership from our fellow board members, and then a lot of it is the staff. Thanks for making us look good. Unofficially, I'd like to change our name to Department of Fun, but if I could get a second on that motion, I'm up to officially changing that too. So thank you all for coming out tonight.
A traveler.
So I'm going to use the time that Brian's yielded to me. No, actually, Brian does have a good point. One of the reasons I'm going to take a little more time is I assume, I want everybody to get their money's worth. I'm assuming we charged admission for this, because Dan knows that any way we can raise money that doesn't include raising taxes, I'm for that. So, and I think anybody who knows me knows that. So I do have notes here, but I can't really read them anyway when I have my glasses on. But I do have a number of things that I do want to touch upon. And the first is, you know, it's been a challenging but exciting year. I've always said, and I have to stick to it with my own elections, that it's important that you follow the will of the people and that you accept the will of the people. And there were a couple of different elections this year, and it's clear that the people of our community want me to serve as a park board member. And I'm looking forward to doing that for the next 4 years, and I'm grateful for the opportunity that my bosses, the residents of Simi Valley and Oak Park, have given me to do that. As I said, in many respects, it's been a challenging year, but it's been a rewarding year as well. And the successes that have occurred would not have been possible without the help of my best friend, my campaign manager, and to me, the most devoted community volunteer we have, my wife, Jill. Thank you so much. I also want to extend a special thank you to Mayor Fred Thomas. The fact that, Fred, you were here to administer the oath is special to me on many levels. On a personal level, I've known Fred for a long time. And I can tell you, if you go back for the past 4 or 5 years, there's certain unique bonds that we've shared. Elections that were successful and maybe some that weren't as successful. Family health issues that were really serious. But more than that, just crossing paths in our passion for volunteering and helping out in the community. And it means so much to me that on this night you administered the oath on a personal level. But I want to add to that. I take my job seriously in terms of representing the Park District, and I'm going to talk about that in a bit. And for us, to me, in the 6 years that I've been on the board, and especially in the past 4 years, we have gone from a good park district that has good people and that does good things to setting the standard for park districts and local government agencies. And knowing that we have 2 city council members, including our new mayor, here to be part of this ceremony, and I believe we have 3 planning commissioners, validates that notion. And for our park district, that means so much. We have come a long way, and we are so appreciative that the rest of our community, our partners in the city, our partners on the school board, our partners in the business community, have been along for the ride. I think of tonight as a celebration of our park district, and Fred, as our new mayor, I thank you so much for being an integral part of that. And I have to extend congratulations to, I'm not even hesitant to say it, my friend Brian Denner. You know, Brian and I, we're not just friends and we're not just colleagues. In a sense, we've become partners in crime, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit, but we brought a new approach to this park district that took us from a high level to the top level. And that approach would not have been possible without Brian's help and without Brian coming along at the same time. And I remember when I was an appointed incumbent, you know, Brian was kind of the new kid on the block, and we were running against a quality, long-time incumbent 4 years ago. And we kind of brought a new fervor to campaigning in Simi Valley and in Oak Park and in the communities. The number of doors that he and I knocked on, and I remember talking to each other. I would knock on doors where I saw his materials. He would knock on doors where he saw my materials. And we began our work during that campaign because we realized the public was not fully educated. There were a lot of people out there that didn't even know the park districts existed. And the ones who did, they didn't know that we had elected board members. And some thought it was appointed and run by the city. They didn't know that we were accountable to the people. So our work began during that campaign 4 years ago, and we haven't stopped since, and it has been a pleasure to work with you, and congratulations on your re-election. And I want to say one more thing about Brian. You know, we each bring our own qualities. He and I have two completely different approaches. We come from two different political philosophies. But he brings a passion for youth and for our trails and for our parks. He brings a creativity that I wouldn't even know where to snatch some of that stuff from. And then he had the courage and willingness in joining me on this journey to bring a new approach, an approach that speaks to the people, that gets our people in the community involved. And I want to say, you know, I'm sort of a term limits guy anyway, but that's not to say there aren't exceptions. And I look at Kate back here, and she's so important to our community as a representative of minor political parties and her longevity. But with Brian's passion and with his contributions and the creativity he brings and his willingness and courage to join us on this path to a new park district, to a new way of doing business, to me, you know, a lot of people think legacies are about longevity. I think they're about accomplishment. And I mentioned this to Brian a couple months ago. He is arguably going to wind up being the greatest park district director we have ever had, and you could argue that he is already there. Thank you so much. So I want to talk about a couple things, and again, I'm so flattered to have the planning commissioners and the city council members here and distinguished members of our community. When I started on the park board and when I was appointed 6 years ago, I was pleased with the work that was being done. I was pleased with the people I was working with. A lot of good was being done, but it wasn't necessarily all being done the right way. You know, I started in January of 2017, and we weren't televising meetings like we were now. And if memory serves me correctly, the technology for televised meetings had long been around, but we weren't doing it. And in order to serve the public, you need to be transparent. And since that time, and I remember the date because I had to push my board hard and I finally got it done, we finally went to televised meetings and Zoom meetings on October 1st of 2020. It was long overdue, but we've gotten there. And because of that, we're more transparent. And you know, in fact, I have to tell you, we used to have meetings where you'd push tables together that didn't fit, you had chairs that were uncomfortable, and the only recordings were audio recordings, and if anybody from the public wanted to hear those, they had to request those. That's not being transparent. That's not being open to the public. And we needed to change that, and we've done that. And I do have to say, I love our city council. I know there's drawbacks to it. I'm not naive. But I really want to recommend that you guys take another look at the Zoom meetings. I know the pitfalls, but I want to tell you, if you want to be truly transparent and you want people involved, That gets people involved. But more than anything, I'm proud of us that we've gone to those televised and Zoom meetings. And then there was another thing we had that was a problem with our approach. And this is true. This is not a criticism of the administration we had here. This is a concept nationwide in many governmental agencies, whether it's a superintendent of schools or a city manager, or in our case, a district manager. But there's a lot of tendency in local government to have one centralized person make all the recommendations, and then the board members rubber stamp it. Well, what are we doing here? That's not what our job is. Our job is to represent the people. And I took a hard stance after I was elected 4 years ago, and I pushed really hard. And we had this thing where the district manager would get a committee of 2 people together, because if you do more than that, it's a Brown Act violation. It's a majority of board members. Make a recommendation to those board members, and then those board members would recommend it to the entire board, and it was almost like you were frowned upon if you went against that. And the problem with that is, it isn't the entire elected board making the decision, but more than that, you're already flagging the direction that you're going before you've received any public input at all. And it was all wrong. So I fought, and I fought hard, and I pounded on the table, and we've reduced that number of committees that make those types of decisions to 4 or 5. But I've done one other thing, and as long as I'm on this board, I'm going to continue to do it. Those committees don't meet to make those decisions, because in our bylaws, any board director can put an issue on the agenda that they want. And if I have any sense that any issue is going to go to a committee of 2 board members, I immediately have it put on our agenda, because those decisions should be made by the entire elected board, and it should be made with the input of the entire community. Whether we like it or not, we should not be directing any decisions without our community involvement. Government belongs to the people, and that is what I have been about procedurally, and we are going to continue in that path. And finally, we have increased our social media and market outreach. And I'm so proud of that, because in this day and age, it's really important. And because of that, we've gone from a district that really lacked transparency to a district that is more transparent than any, to a government agency that's more transparent than any, and that involves the people. And anybody who's heard me on the campaign trail, or even speaking on an important issue here at the dais on the park board, knows my belief in that. I have been inspired by what I believe are the 2 greatest American leaders of the past 60 years. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and President Ronald Reagan. 2 completely different people who spoke to 2 completely different constituencies. But they both spoke about one thing that you can't get past. They spoke about the people, and they spoke for the people. What are we doing here as elected officials if we're not representing the people? And I'm so proud in the 6 years that I've been on this board that we've come a long way. You know, I was humbled and flattered by, and I know the number, 27,235 votes. Our campaign in this park board race received over 40% of the votes. And if you consider that most people are voting for 2 candidates, some for 1, that means upwards of 70% of the people who voted in the park board race voted for our campaign. And I don't look at that as necessarily a vote for me. Now look, I have an ego like anyone else, and yeah, I feel good about it. It kind of lifts my spirits and everything. But I know what it means. Those 27,235 people voted for a concept that has worked on this park board for the last 4 years. And that concept is transparency, and government belongs to the people. That is the way we have done business, and because of that, we now set the standard, and I am so proud of that. And I just want to give a couple of examples of how that's translated into actions that we've taken for the better for the community. About 1.5 years ago, just to give you one example, I was approached at an event by a concerned citizen and a concerned resident. And they expressed concern about the fact they represented like runners and walkers and cyclists in the community. And there was concern about the fact that there was a segment of the Arroyo Cini Greenway that was just in disrepair. And I didn't have an answer right away, but I did have something in the back of my mind, so I went to our district manager, Dan Pernick, and realized we have grant money for that project. And because of the fact that there was a concerned citizen representing a larger group of people, we brought that to the board. And the board heard it, and we picked up the pace on it. And at some point next year, the improvements between Sequoia and Tapo at the Arroyo Cini Greenway will be completed. And that's because the people got involved. And that's because we respect the wishes of the people. That's what government by the people is all about. And I'm going to take it a step further. Our friends on the city council invited our park district to speak to them about the improvements on the Arroyo Cini Greenway. And because of that, there is now more momentum in the community to make even more improvements. That is the beauty of government by the people. I'm going to give you one other example that shows that sometimes you have to swallow your pride on an issue. As everybody may know here, at least hopefully everybody knows, Oak Park is part of our district. And we had an issue about a tree that was causing a safety concern in one of the parks in Oak Park. And our staff came back with an extremely credible, obviously I thought it was credible because I voted with the recommendation, that we chop down the tree. It could cause injury, it could cause damage to our playground equipment there. And I was part of a majority vote to chop down the tree. Well, the backlash from the Oak Park community was unprecedented. And look, I'm not expecting to have that tree named after me, but I went ahead and I made a motion to reconsider the issue of the tree. And we reversed our vote. We changed our vote, and the majority then voted to save that tree. It cost a little money. We had to move some playground equipment. But that is what government by the people is all about. There are times where you just have to say, and again, if that was in my backyard, that tree would have been down a long time ago. But that wasn't the issue here. The issue is what the people wanted. And then, of course, what to me was probably the defining point for our park district. During the pandemic in 2020, it was my year in the rotation to be chair of the park board. And I can't tell you, I think anyone who knows me knows how I love public speaking, knows how I love to make the public appearances. And I just was so depressed when the pandemic hit and everything was shut down, and I knew that none of that was going to happen. But I wouldn't trade it now as far as being chair that year for anything. Because we did something that no other park district, no other governmental agency in the area did. We stayed open. We kept our parks open, we kept our park bathrooms open, we kept our golf courses open, except for a couple weeks when we were absolutely mandated that we could not, and we kept our trails open. And you know, I was on the phone with Dan day after day, directing him, and so much credit to Dan because he was along with me the whole way, and then the board was along with us after that. And the importance of that is, it's not that because as chair of the board, I was smarter than anyone else. It's not because 5 board directors were smarter than everybody else. It's because we knew the will of the people. We knew that's what the community wanted. They needed it for their physical health, and their mental health, and their emotional health. That is government by the people. We didn't run scared like some of the other park districts. We were more open than anyone else, and we did it for the people. And you know, we kept doing business as usual too. That's the one I talk about the most, but during that same pandemic year, we opened a popular skate plaza in our district. During that same pandemic year, I don't know if anyone else even close to this area did this, we held a Veterans Day ceremony that had 100 guests in attendance. And we did these things because it was the will of the people. It's what the people wanted. It's not because we're anything special. It's because we are now turning government over to the people, which is the way it should be. And I look at Tony and Evelyn out there, and I'm thinking, we're keeping things open. We're opening skate parks, and the government's making them serve dinner outside in a parking lot in 40-degree weather. And that just wasn't the right way to do business. We did it the right way, and we set the standard. So as we go forward, to my fellow board members, to our staff, to the public, we should no longer be asking the question of how have we done business in the past, or how have we been doing it for the past 10 years, or 20 years, or 30 years. What we need to do is ask the question of how can we do things better now and in the future. And we should no longer be asking the question, it's a bad question, how are other park districts doing business? The question we need to ask is, how can we do the great job that we're doing even better now and in the future? And when the community comes forward, when our public comes forward with something that matters to them, whether it's after-school clubs or youth sports leagues, when they come forward and that becomes a priority, the question shouldn't be, do we have the money for it? We have a strong budget. The question is, how should we be prioritizing that budget? We need to have our priorities straight, and our priorities are the people. Man, my throat is getting dry here. All right. I want to conclude with this. The key to all of this, my boss, the boss of all of us here, is the people. It's the residents, the nearly 150,000 residents in our district. And we should always listen to them, we should always hear them, and that should be our guiding principle. Not one board member, not one staff member, but the people. But the reason this has all worked, the reason that we have gone to this level where we now set the standard for local government agencies and park districts, the reason we have gotten to the place where we set the standard is because of our dedicated staff and our dedicated employees. So the next time that you know someone or that you register for a recreation program, say thank you to the employee who helps you. The next time that you're at a park and you see a maintenance worker cleaning up or fixing something up in a building, thank them. And understand this when it comes to our maintenance workers. You know, I can sit here and brag so much about what a great job we did and how much the people rallied behind us to keep our parks and trails and golf courses open during the pandemic. But if it wasn't for our maintenance workers, I wouldn't be able to give that speech. They were the true heroes for our park district during the pandemic, and we should never forget that, and we should always be grateful for that. So as we look forward, always remember it's about the people. Government belongs to the people. And if you see what's happened with this park district and the heights to which we've risen, that should be the lesson that that's how it works. We need to listen to our constituents, and we need to govern based on the guidance that they give us. And I am so grateful to our staff and our employees and to such an appreciative and adoring public that so supports our park district. It is a mutual love affair, and I thank you so much for this opportunity and for letting me be part of that. Thank you.
There's something Ed said in there that if anyone's ever trying to convince him, I would like to highlight. I'm not going to bring up the argument, but we'll just say a board member that's no longer on the board with us. One night, Ed and I were going back and forth, and the whole board arguing about something, and I was trying to get his vote because I thought it might change it. And the other board member said, "That's the way we've always done it." And I just looked up because I was so happy, because I just looked across and I just saw Ed just go stand up like that, and I'm going, if that's ever an argument you have, I'm just going to say that's not a convincing argument for Ed.
Thank you, Chair. Now I think we will extend the privilege of the floor to the public for public comment. Should anyone
Yes.
want to make any comments?
Would anyone like to make a comment?
With that, we will break for a recess in the foyer area.
You're in recess. Cake, right? The cake. Right, I'm going to call the meeting back to order.
Recording in progress.
7:32. Okay. Continued business. There is none. Item 9, new business. A, selection of the 2023 Chair and Vice Chair of the Board of Directors of the Ranchers Senior Recreation and Park District.
Thank you, Chair. Each December, the board has historically rotated its chair and vice chair position. It generally happens in December of each year. So this evening is that time, and agenda is on your agenda for the board to consider that. If the board keeps its historical rotation and way that it has done it in the past, Director Freeman would move to the vice chair position, and Director Gray would ascend to the chair position. So with that, I'll turn it over to the board for any discussion or appropriate motions.
All right. I will entertain a motion to appoint the chair.
Do we do vice chair then chair?
Well,
How do we?
no, you do chair first.
Chair first and then
And then
vice chair.
vice chair.
Yeah.
Is this technically an area where we should get public comment?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, this
Is
is
it,
agenda
okay,
items.
let's start with public comment. Is there any public comment on the rotation? I see no green cards. I hear nobody clamoring. Okay,
So, on the chair position, I would, I'd like to second it, but I want Brian to have the opportunity to make the motion.
While we're doing it, there's both our mics were lit up staring at each other. Let me just read this report real quick. I'd like to nominate Josh Gray to be the chair of the Park District.
And I'd like to second.
all right, roll call.
Director Avila,
Aye.
Director Dennert,
Yes.
Director Freeman,
Yes.
Vice Chair Gray,
Aye.
Chair O'Brien.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to note after the motion, we will extend the floor to the outgoing chair and also to the incoming chair as well for comment.
Okay. Vice Chair, is there any public comment on the selection of the Vice Chair or our typical rotation? I see nothing, I have no green cards, and I hear nobody on Zoom. Okay, who'd like to make that motion?
I would like to make that motion. I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Director Avila,
Aye.
Director Dennert,
Yes.
Director Freeman,
Yes.
Vice Chair Gray,
Aye.
Chair O'Brien.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. If I could, we'd like to start with you
Okay.
on behalf of the district, and we wanted to thank you
Oh,
for the honorary gavel.
okay, I gotta get out.
You know, I'm actually the one who should be getting the loose and broken gavels anyways. I don't.
Right, you don't use them.
We shouldn't even be using those. I should
I like the
You guys should have
gavel.
given me the
I
one
like
that
it.
fell apart.
How many times have you been chair?
Let me see, 4 or 5.
Okay, well, there you go. Congratulations. Thank you,
Thank
for,
you.
on behalf of the staff, thank you for bringing your leadership and a lot. Thank you for your
Yeah.
advice. Yes.
Ready? Yeah, it's cool.
All right.
Thank you. Okay.
Indicated with. I think maybe we ought to move the chairs, and Josh can
Okay. Oh,
move the.
move our persons to leave chairs.
If we're coming around, I'm gonna take Director
All right.
Freeman's.
If you guys want to do this, we can just do these two tonight.
Whatever you want.
Okay.
Everyone do it.
Do you guys want to select chairs tonight, new chairs, or do you want to do
I'm
it at the next?
claiming Elaine's chair over there.
Let's ask the chair.
The vice chair typically would sit here.
Actually, Elaine's supposed to come over here.
Right, the vice chair should sit here.
Sharon, ready? Ed, you want to move over there?
I don't know, I guess we should just do
Elaine
it.
moves over here.
If we only had one thing left, I'd say no, we should probably. Elaine should move there, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
I
you-
see. I see.
the vice chair's to the right.
Oh, right, the vice chair.
Okay.
I just like screwing. Oh, wow, cool. I love that. Oh, man, that's good stuff.
Thank you.
Attorney? Pleasure.
You're here, because the vice chair, you're like.
As they arrange the chairs, the Park District, we traditionally rotate. I'm not committed to always doing that, but I didn't make these motions and support this just because of the rotation. But both these individuals are qualified and served our community, are ready to lead in their positions. So I was happy for both of them to have these new positions.
I'd like to say I was thrilled to be chair, and I'm equally thrilled to pass the gavel to Josh.
All right, Chair Gray, the floor is yours.
I do want to make one comment. I'm gonna speak a little bit more to this on a particular issue in public comments, but I really am excited about Josh being our chair. I think you've been a quality member of the board since you arrived on the board, but there have been things that have happened in the last several months where you've really risen to the occasion, and I'm so excited for you and the way you handle yourself, and so I think this is going to be a really neat year with you as chair.
Thank you.
Josh, I'm looking forward to seeing you develop as a leader, continuing in your current position and any other challenges in the future. And I see one of the benefits of you being chair and on the park board is developing your skills and your knowledge and your abilities to take on any future challenges that you find.
I will just start by thanking the board. I appreciate the votes of support and hope to represent you well as the chair and continue to empower this board to make the decisions we need to make to support the staff, to support the community, and continue to make this one of the best districts not only in the area but in the state, and continue the development that we've seen. I do want to call out three issues that I ran on that the district has continued to make progress on, that I'm proud of, and we will continue to make progress on in the year and years ahead. That is growing our programs, our rec programs, the participation, engaging the community in recreation. That is expanding the after-school clubs. Before and after-school programs are vital in our community. They help students and families have a safe space. They improve educational results, and our staff are absolutely outstanding. Our programs are one of a kind, and I'm proud that in the last year or two, we have made it easier and more accessible for those who might struggle financially to make sure their kids have a safe space. And then the third and final main point is the protection of open space, which this board and this district has done. I'm incredibly proud of that. We have some great projects ahead of preserving a lot of the natural beauty that our area and Simi Valley and Oak Park are fortunate to have. Other than that, I am very excited for all the capital projects we have ahead. I'm incredibly excited that as a district, we're engaging the community now more than ever, and will continue to do so this year. That's credit to the staff work and the board supporting it, doing outreach and getting out there into the community, and really starting to grow our programs and come out of these COVID years stronger than ever, and continue to grow the Rancho Simi brand and name. And all of that leads to a better park district, preservation of our spaces, and a happy and healthy community. That will conclude my remarks. Thank you all. And that takes us to number 9, new business, subpoint B. Nope, subpoint C, status and discussion of the 2022-23 school year before and after school club program, including enrollment, staffing, and implementation of the new scholarship grant program.
Thank you, Chair. Director of Fund Recreation, Zach Miller, will provide staff's report along with his staff, I believe. So Zach will start to kick it off.
Good evening, Chair Gray. Pleasure to be able to say that officially. At the request of the board tonight, we are bringing back some information about the status of the before and after school club program. We will focus on the areas of enrollment, staffing, and the scholarship program, just to give you some background and updates of where we are as as a district now with that program. I am joined by Danielle June and Zen Flores, who are both the people that administer the day-to-day of that program, along with our part-time staff that do a tremendous job in those clubs. As far as enrollment goes, in 2018 and 19, prior to the onset of COVID, enrollment in the Before School Club program was at 125 students, and 631 students were in the After School Club program. In 21-22, following the beginning of the recovery from the COVID impacts, which was last school year, the enrollment in the Before School Club program was 79, and the enrollment in the After School Club program was 409. Currently, this year, the enrollment in the Before School Club program is at 81, and the enrollment in the After School Club program is at 468. So a little bit of an uptick from where we were last year, but not to the pre-COVID numbers at this point. As far as staffing goes, currently we have, all the clubs have the minimum staffing necessary to operate at each location based on the enrollment at each of those clubs. We were able to fill the club director positions at all the clubs, which was a challenge leading into the school year. I think we mentioned that full-time staff was taking on some of that role at the beginning of the school year. However, that has been relieved by the hiring of some qualified club directors. We do have the need for some rec counselors and aides at certain clubs. That will improve our ratios, provide better kid to staff ratios, obviously, and allow us to do a little bit more things in the clubs when our staffing is a little bit higher. So we are still looking to fill some of those positions in the clubs. We currently do have a wait list at a couple of locations. That is based on the lack of what I would call the support staff, the counselor and aide positions. If we can pump those up a little bit, I think we would be able to, we would be able to increase the enrollment and possibly deal with the wait list of those clubs. Danielle would be happy to speak to those numbers if you're interested in those, but it's fairly minimal. I think there's 1 or 2 locations that could benefit from some more staffing at those places. Full-time staff does occasionally still work in the program if there's sick outs or some kind of other need, but that has dramatically decreased since the beginning of the school year. As far as the scholarship and grant program go, if you recall, in February of 2022, the board approved the 2-tier scholarship program for the Before and After School Club program. That program was allocated at $30,000 to be able to split amongst the qualified families that enrolled in the program based on their financial need. There was 2 levels of need. Tier 1 provided scholarship grants up to $1,250 per student, and Tier 2 provided a scholarship grant up to $1,500 per student based on their income levels. The total annual cost of the Before School program without a scholarship would be $1,197, and the total annual cost of the After School program without a scholarship is $3,335. So you're talking about 2/3 to half of the money being covered of those prices. The scholarship grant program is now serving 18 children. Of the 18 children receiving scholarship and grants, 7 are Tier 1 students, which received $1,250 to assist with the cost of the program, and 11 of those students qualify under Tier 2, and they receive $1,500 to assist with the cost of the program currently. The allocation of the Tier 1 scholarship program is approximately $8,750 to date, and Tier 2 we've scholarshiped about $16,500 to date, so we have allocated about $25,250 total of the $30,000 originally allocated to this program so far this year. Last year we had 17 youth in the district's Before and After School Club discount program, so there is a small uptick of a student or 2. These are not the same families. There's a pretty significant turnaround of new families that are participating, while some old families have dropped out of the program or the scholarship program for a variety of reasons. When we discussed the scholarship program in February, the board and the staff discussed child care grant opportunities that may be available through the school district. Since then, we have confirmed that there are some grant monies that are available through Simi Valley School District for the Before and After School Club program, and we are currently working with the school district to get an agreement in place that will help kind of offset some of the costs for those students in our programs. It's anticipated that about 109 youth that are currently in our programs would qualify through the school district's grant program, which would, again, decrease their need for a scholarship through us possibly, and that would be picked up by the school district. We will not go into detail with that program with you tonight, but as we get that agreement in place over the next few months, we'll come back to report on that more specifically should you have those questions about that program. So tonight, we're just recommending that you kind of consider the information presented to you, give direction to staff. If you have any questions about the program currently, we'd be happy to answer those. And like I mentioned, Danielle and Zen are here if you have any specific questions about any particular club. That concludes my report.
And Chair, just as a reminder, we ask questions of staff before there's any direction or deliberation. We need to get public comments, sir.
I believe Director Denner had his light on first. That leaves Vice Chair Freeman. You have questions?
So we allocated the 30,000, so we have a little under 5,000 left.
That's correct.
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 So will you be coming back, do you think, with the part of the budget process or before the budget process?
Currently, the children that are enrolled are probably going to stay pretty consistent. At least that's our opinion at this point. If we get an uptick in requests coming into the new semester after the holidays, we would come back at that time. That might be in line with the timing of the school district's grant program, so we might be able to do some of that at the same time. We're anticipating that a lot of those families are going to qualify for both programs, and some of the details we need to work out is exactly how they're going to qualify or be reimbursed for our programs.
I have a question. Can you just refresh my, how does it's low income, but can you define low income for me, basically? Refresh my memory.
So it's based on household income, and so they provide, the applicants will provide a copy of their tax return, and they follow the tiered system for low-income families for reduced lunch programs and things of that nature. So depending on their total income and the number of the households, they're either qualified as Tier 1 or Tier 2, and then we would give them the appropriate discount based on that.
That's great.
Any other board members with questions? I have one. It may be difficult to quantify, but I was curious, do we have any numbers on people who may have initially drawn an application or expressed interest, but did not submit an application?
I believe Danielle may have some of that information. If I don't mind, I'll maybe call her up and have her answer that for you.
Absolutely.
Danielle?
Good evening. Congratulations. To answer the question, I would say we have about 36 applicants right now who are in what we call kind of our binder. So as you can see, about half of those are actually enrolled in the after school club program. Some of those still use our discount program for summer camps or things like that. And we've had a couple then come off of that list who are now enrolled in the after school club program. So I would say there are still people who are utilizing the discount program, but not necessarily for after school club, if that kind of helps answer. We have not turned anyone away to this point, just to make that clear as well. So nobody who's indicated interest or need has been turned away.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you. If there are no more questions, does not appear so. Is there any public comment? I am seeing none. Any board members have statements, expressions they'd like to share?
I just want to say I appreciate the efforts that are being made, and what efforts have been taken to hire. I mean, I know you've been to job fairs and all, and what else can you do?
I will give a lot of credit to our staff who has been at just about every job fair and every opportunity to do some outreach and marketing, including our marketing and outreach coordinator who's done a lot of work trying to find us qualified applicants. And I think we've done a pretty good job, but like I say, we would still love some kids to consider those rec aides and counselor positions, because that would really be able to allow us to expand that program even more.
Are we competitive financially, with McDonald's thing?
As you recall, we did bring the part-time wage schedule back to you earlier this year, which you did vote to increase across the board for some of our after-school club. We did see a small bump in applications and hiring in response to that increase. So I do believe it's working. And I believe that kind of the nature of employment is settling a little bit, so kids are kind of coming back to us that may have chased another job at one point. It feels like there's a couple of folks that are coming back because they like the work or like the district, and so that's a good thing for us.
Thank you.
Yeah, Chair, if I could comment, I did want to remind the board that you guys took this pretty significant action, particularly with the director position and the assistant director positions. That, as I understand it, has resulted in us filling all of those positions, and we're getting good applicants. And then also we did bump the counselor and aide. I think we're still seeing the results of that leaking out. But when we did do that, we did look at comparisons with the fast food industry in different areas. And I think the move that the board made has definitely helped relative to the wages that we provide. We'll monitor that, as we said, and if we think we need to look at that again, we'll bring that back to you. I did also want to know, just from my perspective, the direction is clear from the board regarding the discounting program or the scholarship program. It's clear that the board does want to provide access to our programs and not turn folks away. So to the extent that more people become interested in that, we'll certainly keep the board informed and come up with ways that we can accommodate that. It is nice, the grant program that the school district has, and we're working with them on dotting the I's and crossing the T's. And that will be very helpful to a lot of the kids in the program. So we'll keep you informed on that.
Is there an estimate of what dollar figure that is? Or?
I don't have that detail tonight. I think Stu is working on an MOU potentially with the school district, so that would likely come back to you guys for the MOU agreement that will include all the details of the program at that time.
Any other board comments?
I agree, we got to have access to our programs, and that's an important goal. The other goal that I have is the quality of the programs, and I wouldn't want the access to cut into the quality. And by that I mean we don't have staff available, but it's affordable. If we have a wait list and it's affordable, well, it's not accessible. So I'm concerned about the students on the wait list, although I definitely listened that it was not a very large list. I do want us to explore, because we mentioned job fairs. In high school, there's a survey that you take. It's a computer program. It's called Naviance. And you identify your career goals and majors. We have a list, the school district has it, but we haven't accessed that list yet. So we have students that want to be a teacher one day, but we're advertising to everybody. And what I've learned is there's just too much information in the world today. So it's targeted information. So if you're thinking of becoming a teacher, there are students that filled out the survey, they're thinking about becoming a teacher, but they're taking jobs in restaurants instead because they don't know these jobs are available. Now, you might hear from that, oh, we should put another flyer out or another post on social media. I don't think so. I think we should target directly the students that said they want to be a teacher one day. Maybe they'll learn they don't want to be a teacher, or maybe they'll develop the skills and they have something to add to their resume. And by adding to the resume, I mean specifically some of the students, they might not need the money. They might be from a family of means that they don't need to work for money, but if they understand it's going to help their resume and explore future careers, that's a pool of people that doesn't come to a job fair because they didn't need a job, but they wanted to add to their future. So I'd like to see us target not just with job fair, but Naviance is that specific list that we already have. And then in my mind, as a high school teacher, I know this is not a high school program, I see we have a front gate and a back gate at our school, and I'm mostly concerned with our front gate. And what I mean by that is when the bell rings, the kids that walk out the front gate, because they're done, they don't have as much reason to show up in the morning to school or connection to school, and they don't often do as well in school. But the back gate kids is where you pick up your kids when they're in extracurricular activities, because they're there at the stadium, they're there in the practicing for marching band, they had a club meeting, so you drive up to the back gate a couple hours later and pick up your kids. The same thing I see is we want kids in these programs, and we need to worry about that accessibility. When my family moved to St. Valley, it was easy to raise a family. That's why you moved here. There wasn't much to do, but it was a good town to raise a family. Well, now it's too expensive, and we don't always have the things to do. So I want to see us do the best job possible getting kids into this program and having a high-quality program, balancing those needs.
We have to act like headhunters, basically, is what you do.
Yes, yeah.
It's essentially headhunter behavior, not.
I like that. When you're specifically looking for someone with that interest.
Start looking at that. Yeah. Okay, commenting.
That's it for me.
Any other board comment? I know in my remarks on boarding I did talk about the after-school club, and it always has been one of my priorities. But I do, since we are on the topic, I just want to thank the staff again for the incredible work they do. I know it is not easy. I have seen the programs. I've been in the programs when I was a kid, and I've also seen how much it costs and the balance of maintaining quality while making sure people who need it and can most benefit from it still get to participate on it. So So I do just want to say one additional time, thank you to the staff, and your work really does matter. And I know 20 years ago it mattered to me, and I know it matters to the kids who are there now. And we are creating the community, as Brian said, that people want to live in. So I just want to say thank you one more time, and thank you for that report.
Thank you, Chair. If I could, not to the point of recruiting, but just to the point of extracurricular activities, I did want to note we are rebooting the Teen Center, which has, as I understand it, has had a lot of interest. Also, we do have the Activity Center that we're going to be opening. Our plan in the Activity Center is to program that for extracurricular activities that may be a little bit different one that the school offers or others. So with that in mind, and getting the kids to the back door. Hopefully the back door could be able to hear the Park District as well. So.
Okay, I'm happy to hear there's a lot of interest because I wasn't concerned about the fun aspect of our teen club. I know a lot of work went into designing and planning it, but sometimes it's hard to get kids there the first time. Getting them back is the part where they had fun. So I'm happy to hear there's good interest in it.
We're very excited about that one, yeah.
Thank you. That takes us to item D, review and consideration of resolution number 2050, modifying district policy manual, chapter 12, facility use fees and conditions, including a proposed increase to the district's facility use fees.
Thank you, Chair. Director Miller will provide staff's report.
Good evening, Chair Gray, Board of Directors. This evening we have our annual conversation about our facility fees and our fee use schedule. As you may recall, in December of 2022, last year at this time, rental rates and related fees within the fee schedule were not increased for youth sports at the direction of the board, but were increased by 6% for all other facility uses across the district. Tonight, staff is bringing forward the item for the board to conduct its annual review and consider adjustments to our fee schedule. Attachments in your board package this evening show approximate 3% and 6% increases to our existing fee schedule. As the board considers this item, it is important to note that the district's operating budget and core operating budget increased approximately 7.4% from the prior year as a result of increased labor costs, utility costs, insurance, and a few other items. So the following alternatives are available for the board's consideration this evening. One would be to approve a 3% increase to the facility use fee schedule, which is attachment A in your package. Approval of 6% increase to the facility use fee schedule, attachment B in your package. Option 3 is not to approve any increase to the facility use schedule, and option 4 is to provide some other direction to the staff. So this evening we are recommending the board select the preferred alternative and considering approving resolution number 2050, modifying district policy manual, chapter 12, facility use, fees, and conditions, and authorization for the district manager to proceed with the implementation of this update to the district's policy manual. That concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I'm seeing Ed with his leg up.
I do have a question or two that has to do with the same topic. In looking at the list of fees, in terms of what would affect, if anything, youth sports leagues, would that be the fields fees that would affect them? Would anything affect them? Is it certain fields fees that would affect youth sports leagues? How can you answer that?
So after our conversation last year, in your attachment A and B both, there is on page 1, there is a separate column for youth, the under 18 rate. That column was created after the discussion and decision last year to split those rates and not to increase those rates for youth sports. So the fees in that page 1 far right column at the bottom there, youth under 18 years rate, would be the same rates that existed last year without any increase, and that would be the column that would be impacting youth sports should you consider increasing or leaving those fees flat this year.
So let me understand, are you saying that the youth under 18 rate, I'm trying to understand, for the proposal for the upcoming year, are there 3% and 6% increases included in those, or are they not included?
So the attachments in your packet this evening do show an increase of 3% and 6%. Attachment A is a 3% proposed increase including on youth sports, and attachment B is a 6% increase including youth sports. So the current fee schedule is slightly lower by 3% than attachment A, if that answers the question.
Well, let me ask this another way. So would there be any, if we chose as a board to do so, would there be any difficulty in increasing in general, facility use fees by 6%, but only increasing the ones affecting youth under 18 by 3%.
You could absolutely give us that direction, and we could make that happen as part of this decision this evening.
Those are my questions.
Any other board questions?
No, I did not actually have a question. I just had comments, but I'll wait till comments.
Any public comments? I am now seeing any. Director O'Brien?
Yes, my comments. Originally, I was leaning toward a 3% increase, and then I saw that, of course, our costs have increased by 7.4. So I thought, we have to keep a balanced budget. We're not being responsible with taxpayers' money if we're not balancing the budget. And when I review the cost increases in the 6%, that doesn't look really like a huge hardship. They don't look that bad to me. So I'm leaning towards 6%. I do notice we have a lot of filming permits too, and of course, I have no problem at all raising those with 6%. So that's just my comment. I think maybe if we want to be, fiduciary responsibility, strongly suggest a 6% increase.
Ed?
Okay, right. So my proposal would be along the lines of my last question. I would recommend raising, in general, the facility use fees by 6%. The reason for that being, even though I voted against it, I believe we increased the assessment by about that amount. And so to me, it would be unconscionable to charge the taxpayer that and then not increase our facility use fees by that amount. Especially because, we do need money for various projects. However, because of our pledge to our youth, I would make one specific adjustment to that, and that is to only increase for youth under 18 those fees by 3%. So my proposal would be 6% in general, with the exception of only 3% for the youth under 18 categories.
I'm open to that. Dan, with filming fees, or Zach, is there any fees you think we might miss out on because we raised it too much, like they just choose to go somewhere else? I guess I'm asking, when people are filming, is that their concern, or is that a very small part of their decision?
I would say currently we don't have a lot of pushback saying that our fees are too high for filming. In fact, we are kind of considering bringing back a filming policy cleanup later in the year, which could include some discussion about certain fees, not all the fees in this study or in this schedule necessarily, but there are some things like staffing that haven't been increased for our filming, our film monitor positions, things like that we would be considering raising. But our standalone fees for filming have not been negatively, discussed by most of the filming companies, especially the TV film companies. They seem to have no objections to our current fees.
I looked through these and made the comparisons and contemplated whether the 6% would negatively affect any proposal, but the cost spread is so minimal on the 6% that it probably would not make a difference in whether someone held an event or didn't hold an event. And on the youth sports, I understand where Director Evelyn is coming from, but under the youth sports, the fees that are charged for the fields are serving a huge number of kids. So on a per capita basis, the number of kids that are enjoying recreation as a result of the fee is pretty minimal, because the sports leagues have pretty good sized budgets. And I don't think we've ever really gone into that discussion on what their budgets are. So I understand where you're coming from, but I think that in my view, it's so minimal that with the budgets that the youth sports groups have, that it won't impact them negatively at 6%.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. It just dawned on me looking at this item. There's been so much going on. I didn't even think about this before. Are we going to? How does the wedding rentals at Strathern figure into this? And are we going to get an update on that and how all of that is working?
Yeah, the weddings are kind of a unique dynamic. There's a different market there. We are planning on bringing that back to the board in January or February. The board, I would recall, we significantly increased those last year. We did it in a resident and a non-resident rate, but our plan was to bring that back to the board and review the information and how it's working out with the fees.
And when will we be doing that?
January or February. I don't have a specific date yet.
So I'm going to make a motion that we increase the facility rates by 6%, with the exception that we only increase rates for youth under 18 by 3%.
I'll second that, but did Brian?
Dan, I just had a question. You could give me an estimate. How much money is that, the distinction there? Is that something you could give us an estimate on? Like, if we raised youth sports by 6 versus 3, separate than the other part of the budget?
I can maybe help frame that a little bit. So on some of these lower dollar figures, a 3% increase doesn't even change the whole dollar up $1. So when you're talking about a $16 fee, 6% of that, you're talking 36 cents increase, right? So it doesn't even round up to $17. So some of these impacts, even at 3 or 6%, won't raise the whole dollar to the next whole dollar. So it's hard to calculate because we've been, even in our past 3% increase, the whole dollar did not raise. The price effectively stayed flat, except for some of these higher dollar figures that are in the fee schedule. So we are kind of calculating that off to the side now, so that when a 3 or 6% increase does happen, it does raise the whole dollar, but it is hard to track specifically what that impact would be to the overall budget because it doesn't move the needle very far at some of these lower hourly rates.
As a percentage of the whole, I would guess, just looking at the numbers, I would guess we collect about 150 to 200,000 in fees related to youth sports. We also have the youth sports league agreements, the flat fee agreements that are going to come back to the board next month. So I think it's about 150 or 200 in that category. So when you're talking 3%, let's just use 200. 3% would be $6,000 increase, correct? And a 6% would be it'd be double that, $12,000. So you're talking about a $6,000 difference probably in fee revenue to the district between the two numbers.
That's it for me.
Okay. Just to clarify, did we have some kind of agreement with the youth sports that we were never going to raise the fees more than 3% or anything?
No.
I'm not aware.
So the youth, there's the baseball youth sports leagues and the softball league, we do different, they're not subject to these fees, we do separate agreements with them. So.
I will point out that during the pandemic with use of league play, the youth sports leagues really lost out. They got gypped in many different ways. And it's been a priority, at least for some of us as board members, to take care of them. So again, for me, the motion's been made and Josh seconded it. So.
Yeah, I would say the motion has been made. Can we roll call?
Director Obland?
Aye.
Director Dennert?
Yes.
Director Freeman? I'm sorry. Director O'Brien?
Yes.
Vice Chair Freeman?
Aye.
And Chair Gray?
Aye.
Wait a minute.
I think we doubled up on it.
Yeah.
I think we
Let's try that again. Let's try that again, Cindy.
No words.
Director Obland?
Aye.
Director Dennert?
Yes.
Director O'Brien?
Yes.
Vice Chair Freeman?
No.
No.
Chair Gray?
Aye. Thank you, staff. That takes us to item E, status of exploring the installation of sand volleyball courts in Oak Park in consideration of revised cost estimate.
Thank you, Chair Director. Miller will provide staff's report, and then I'll have a couple follow-up comments related to the budgetary impact.
Good evening, Chair Gray, Board of Directors. This evening's item is to update the board on the status of the proposed Oak Park Sand Volleyball Court project. As you recall, the Board of Directors previously directed the staff to explore the concept of adding sand volleyball courts in Oak Park. Deer Hill Park was discussed as the preferred location for the installation of those courts. The courts would be used by the local community, students of Oak Park High School and Oak Park schools, and club volleyball teams that have requested space to rent space for their practices. At the time of the discussion during the budget process, preliminary plans have not been completed by staff, but a budget to construct the courts was estimated to be approximately $100,000 for 2 courts based on a prior sand volleyball project within the district. Runkle volleyball courts was that example. Since then, additional design work has been completed by the staff, and it has been determined that the construction of the Deer Hill Park 2-court project is estimated to be approximately $350,000. It's been estimated that constructing 3 courts at Deer Hill Park would be currently about $450,000. The increase in these costs are primarily due to some grading and drainage, and the fact that construction materials have increased significantly since we prepared those original estimates. The Oak Park Planning Committee discussed this project as well and requested that the staff conduct some outreach to the community and neighborhoods surrounding the park to share their opinions of the project prior to their January 12th meeting, which we are in the process of doing and will be completed before that meeting occurs. So this evening, we're just asking that the board provide us some direction on further exploring this project in Oak Park in consideration of the change to the estimated cost of the project. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, and I know Dan has a couple comments.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, since we wrote the report, Zach and I did have a discussion with the superintendent of schools and the assistant superintendent and made them aware of the increased cost. During the budget discussion, the board had allocated $100,000. We did share the new significantly higher costs with them. They are interested and expressed, although not exactly how much, they will cost share, and they expect to cost share, especially at these higher dollar amounts. So I think the question for the board this evening, assuming some kind of fair cost share with the school district on that total cost, is the board willing to put in more than $100,000 to this project? I don't think it's going to be the full $350 or the full $450, but some sense of what the board might be willing, if you want to, and what dollar amount you might be willing to contribute to see this project through. Or conversely, if you think the value of the project is not worth the price here, we will halt discussions on the project. So we're just looking for a little direction tonight. We did want to have this discussion with the board before we go to the Oak Park Committee because it was significantly different. So we wanted to get this for the board to make sure that we are in our proper place by moving the effort forward with the Oak Park Committee.
Thank you. I saw for board questions, Brian and then Elaine.
How many sand volleyball courts are in the Oak Park community, like on school property? Do we have that number?
I'm not aware of any on school district property currently. There is one community sand volleyball court at Indian Springs Park that the district operates or maintains.
And then if we have one on that one, how would you consider just building another one at that location so that they get the numbers? Is it a space issue?
Yeah. I don't believe any further courts would fit in the location next to the current court at Indian Springs.
Okay. At the Oak Park Committee, it was my understanding that the school district preferred to have 3 rather than 2 because the 2 would not function as well as it could, and they wanted 3. And looking at the location, it didn't look practical to put 3 there at Deer Hill. Is that correct?
No, that discussion, yes. The committee and the school district are both interested in the 3-court option.
Right.
The discussion at the Oak Park Committee was that we thought 3 courts would be exponentially more because we had to do some grading and retaining wall work.
That's true.
So this design takes into account, and you can see the increased cost to add both the second and third court. So
does this add the 3rd court?
The alternative with 3 courts is estimated at $450,000.
Have you had that discussion at all with the school district about 2 2 versus 3? I mean, are they adamant about it?
They're not adamant, they prefer 3. We had a discussion about it, and we thought if we're gonna do a project at this level, we should fully meet the need of the district. I would note too that, there's community interest in volleyball courts too, not just the school district. But I think optimally, if you're gonna turn dirt and do this project and spend this kind of money, you probably wanna do it right versus doing the 2 courts. And I think the 3-court design fits, volleyball's a CIF sport now. So if you map out the number of teams and how many kids are playing, optimally you have a 3-court design where you can have 2 courts where kids are playing, and you have a court for the kids that are getting ready to play. But optimally it's a 3-court setup, and that's the school district's strong preference. That being said, they will take any courts they can get, they told us.
So in our discussion, we should first determine if we want 3 courts versus 2, and then whether the investment is worth it, because the 3 courts was clear at the committee to me that that's what was the preference.
Correct. I think at the time we weren't sure that we were going to be able to fit 3 courts. Now we've got an opinion from the designers that 3 courts will fit. Okay. So I think that's valid to give us some feedback on whether or not the board wants to pursue the 3. And if you do, then you're looking at that higher dollar amount as our estimate right now, $450,000 for 3.
Okay, and we budgeted $100,000 for that. Now, if we get, say, the school district to do some cost sharing, we're gonna but the $100,000 was for 2 courts.
Correct.
Right, so if it was those prices, the 3 courts would be $150,000, so I'm just guessing here.
Yeah, I think another way to look at it is if we did 3 at $450,000, and let's say we shared the cost with the school district down the middle, then you'd be, what's half of $450,000, $175,000? So we're 100. We're already 100. Sorry, 275.
225.
225.
I'm unclear. Is the school district willing to split the costs or not? Where are we at?
They're willing to cost share, but we did not get into how much exactly. I told them that we may. Our board may be interested in getting to about 250, 225, or halfway. So I was kind of leading into sharing the cost, and they understood that. So if it's 225 and we have 100, you'd be voting tonight to add another 125 to the budget, assuming that we got a 50% cost share from the school district.
Well, I'm okay with it if we truly get a 50% cost share. But I don't want it to be one of these things where they say they're going to do something, and then at the end of the day we take on the whole cost.
Chair, I do know there's at least one member of the public on Zoom.
Yeah, I just want to make sure our board questions concluded.
Yeah.
Oh, public comment? I don't believe we have.
Dave, I think that's you.
Yes, it is.
Dave, are you still awake? I will call you at home.
Hey, yes, thank you very much. Just to clarify on the need, and thank you all for the time and the interest in continuing to further the great sport of beach volleyball. But the difference between 2 courts and 3 courts on the CIF, so if you consider what they consider a match for varsity or JV, it's 3 teams versus 3 teams. So that's the big value add for the school district. And I would just really continue to implore the board to invest in beach volleyball. There's now well over 2,000 kids involved in youth volleyball in our communities, and the ability to go to beach volleyball. Currently, the Oak Park kids, the Oak Park High School volleyball program is practicing on 1 court, which is limiting their ability to have more kids in the program because they're only on 1 court. And then for one of their practices per week, they're driving all the way to Zuma. And so you think about what we're not providing for those kids in our own community. It's just an opportunity. I think we should work with the school board and figure out that. But the difference between 2 and 3 is very significant, and I hope that we can move forward with 3 in the community. And now representing Lava, which is one of the largest indoor community indoor facilities on the beach side. We're interested in using those courts for our beach programs that continues to expand in the community, especially because you're investing in lights, which is a big thing that no one else has in our area until the Moore Park College facility comes online next year. So it's a big win. I hope you can consider the investment. So, thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Dave.
Chair, if I could, I hate to interrupt, but there's another piece to this kind of scenario, and that is for this in a joint use agreement, the school district's willing to open up the tennis court usage for pickleball. So the idea here conceptually at this point is that we can meet the need for sand volleyball in the community. We could, but we could also, we've heard the need for pickleball, of course, in Oak Park. So we're trying to kind of kill two birds with one stone, so to speak. So we would be pursuing some access to the high school tennis courts for pickleball uses as well.
I just want to make sure, are there any more public comments on this topic? Okay, board comments? Yes, Elaine?
At the Oak Park meeting, there was discussion on the feasibility of Deer Hill versus Chaparral or some other location. So I noticed that there's going to be a request to the neighbors around Deer Hill.
Yeah, so the committee was very, wanted us to explore the concept and wanted us to do public outreach. We have outreach to the HOA and have invited them to the committee's meeting on the 12th.
Okay.
But I do expect there'll be some, could be some pretty significant opposition to the courts, particularly adding lights on these courts. That being said, so this is a conceptual discussion. We're not making any decisions tonight. We're running it by you to see what your financial authority may be as we have these discussions, but it's very much still in the discussion phase relative to Deer Hill and also getting input from the neighborhood in that area. So,
Do you know if the school district will be at our meeting?
we've asked them to attend.
They do plan on attending, at least a few representatives from the school.
Okay.
Kate?
Yeah, I just want to say that I tend to echo what Ed said. I'm okay with putting extra money into it, but I want the school district to have skin in the game. And I want to get an idea of how much. I prefer 50%. That's it.
Ryan?
I want there to eventually be 3 courts because what it will do for our students and athletes. And I noticed that at our Oak Park committee meeting that we still don't have a youth member, but without a youth member, people immediately had the response of wanting to know more from the HOA and limiting lights. But we're not hearing from the whole community, and the community include the people that would use the courts. But we're hearing from neighbors, which is good and should be a part of our listening. Jazz Smith had given me the feedback. She wanted to talk about the seasons in which we cut trees, so I invited her to our January meeting to discuss that. I'm not good with putting more money into this project, but that doesn't mean I don't want it to be done. The reason for that is the Oak Park community is currently in deficit, which means any more money that goes into this project is coming out of Simi Valley. And we have a lot of maintenance to do here and facilities to build here. So if they're in deficit, I'd like them to not be in deficit and not increase the cost at the expense of something in Simi Valley. That's not fair to the people of Simi Valley to say we need to subsidize Oak Park. Oak Park has been very serious that the money generated in Oak Park should stay in Oak Park. That's a good point, but that would mean that the money generated in Simi Valley is not also adding to their budget to have nicer things, more courts, more facilities that our young people in Simi Valley don't get access to, that they wouldn't also. It's hard to say we can't build it here because we don't have the money, but we built it someplace else. So I'm concerned about that deficit. If the school district wants to not contribute half, but more than half, because a lot of it's going to be their sports program, then I will take that into consideration. And if the Oak Park Committee says they're serious about closing that deficit, not by cutting, just by cutting because that's easy to do, but by talking about added revenue, by exploring added revenue, if they were serious about that budget part, then if it was a short-term thing, like we do this now, but long-term that gets paid back to the other parts of the park district, or we do this now and it adds the value of the pickleball courts to solve another problem. We do this now and it adds revenue, but not the expense of just saying we're not going to maintain other facilities or the money is going to be shifted over there. That said, if it was that deficit is really bothering me that they're not treating it seriously and looking at it and saying, well, sure, we'll take more money, or no, we just won't do it, versus we'll just have a serious discussion. Explore the alternatives, explore the choices in the Oak Park Committee. Dan, is anybody from the Oak Park Committee here tonight?
I do not see anybody now.
We've asked them multiple times to have somebody come to our meeting so that they could get feedback and know about these issues before. So I'm open to it after a serious discussion from the Oak Park Committee about how they're going to close that deficit instead of not maintaining facilities. But for now, no, I'm not interested in going more to deficit unless that part's met. Now to Dave, who's on the call. Dave, that doesn't mean I'm against building the 3 courts. I'm just working on the particulars how to do that. And if they show a good faith effort towards that, that doesn't mean at that January meeting they have to solve it at the January meeting. But I want to see progress towards that goal, so they know that that is a serious need of the Oak Park community to work on that.
And yeah, I just wanted to, really as a follow-up, and I actually intended to ask the question, so Brian, with his comments, made up for a question I didn't ask. So would this money effectively be coming, so to speak, from the CME side of the budget, and would that put Oak Park in a more of a deficit situation?
The original $100,000 that we recommended came out of the recommended to come out of the Oak Park assessment. So the original 100 was out of their assessment money. If there's any additional amount, I'd have to evaluate that to see where that would come out from, if it would come from their own sources. So
in light of that answer, I would modify what I said. I think we should at least be getting the school district to contribute at least 50% of it, and that I actually concur in Director Dennard's comments that we shouldn't get ourselves in a situation where the money's coming from the CME end of the budget and puts Oak Park in a further deficit situation. So that 50% number is something I threw out there, not having asked the question I intended to ask, but in light of that answer, if it's coming out of the Oak Park side of the budget, and it's realistic for it to come out of that side of the budget, then I'm still okay at the 50% level. Otherwise, I can only go along with this if the school district contributed even more than that.
I'll take that direction when I evaluate the funding source for the extra money to ensure that it's coming out of Oak Park sources, and make the board aware of where that's coming.
Ed said what I was thinking in a shorter, more concise way, and I appreciate that.
Just curious, how far in deficit are they? I don't remember. I remember we got over this. I just don't remember.
300?
Yeah, there's 2 different things. We talk about ongoing and we talk about capital. So when we talk about the operating imbalance, let's say, it depends on what cost you put on there. So on paper right now, it's about $180,000, but we don't also allocate certain costs to Oak Park. So if we were to do a true cost allocation of all of our time and kind of do it scientifically, it would be more than that. So right now it's about 180, but if we were to do a true cost allocation where my time and everybody's time was allocated over there, it would probably be, I would guess, 300 to 350 on the operating side. That being said, we do have one-time sources of money from different grants and different things that have occurred. That should fairly be apportioned to that district as well. And we do have one-time monies that could be apportioned for, and prioritized for a one-time project. So it's more on the operating side. They are in a deficit. That being said, there are one-time monies that are available for projects. Also, theoretically, if they have the one-time money, it should be using theoretically to fill the gap on the operating side. So that's where it kind of crosses over between the 2.
Earmark funds, or then they can't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that number was about 180,000.
That's based on the way we calculate it now on the cost allocation, but we don't do a true apportionment of all of our cost between the 2 agencies or the 2 communities. If you were to take a harder line approach to how you allocate costs, it would be more than that.
The reason I bring that up is, as Dave mentioned, if students are driving from Oak Park to Zuma to practice, that's a big ask for families. So I wouldn't want, I dislike the answer of, oh, well, we're in deficit, we just won't build whatever's on the list, or we won't redo a parking lot or other facilities that we need. we need to explore with the committee how to close that gap so they can continue to meet these needs. Because this meets the needs for volleyball, but also pickleball, and I would like that to be the end result.
Chair and Director Dennett, I also wanted to note we have 4 volleyball courts designed into the Rancho Santa Cruz project too, right? We landed on 4.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, so relative to this growth in sand volleyball, as the board's aware, I just want to remind you relative to the need, we're within the district, we've got 4 brand new courts penciled into the Rancho Santa Cruz design.
Thank you. Ellen?
Is there a national association for sand volleyball, and I mean, is there potential grants available, or through the school district on the state has money for educational things like that maybe the school district would have advantage of?
I'm not aware of it currently. I think that the grant monies typically for those types of construction projects, Oak Park probably wouldn't meet the need. But we could certainly explore that with the school district and see if there's any other funding sources that may become available for that.
Okay, I will just add, I agree with Brian's comments, and I'd love to see volleyball courts and more of them, but until other issues are addressed, and I'd love to continue discussions with the school district and encourage them to contribute more, at minimum 50%.
So if I could summarize the direction, the board's okay with continuing the discussion about construction of 3 courts. We expect some level of cost share from the school district, but the board is also directing that to ensure that if there is additional funding from the park district, that it comes out of Oak Park sources. And we also want to make sure the committee has a conversation and a recognition that these things need to be prioritized against available resources. And if it's not there, we need to have a conversation about how they want to get resources, so to speak. So.
Dan, I think that's a fair summary, but that last part is like them having a serious discussion about the assessment.
Right.
And if they can have a separate assessment,
okay.
Because their needs keep going up and they keep asking for more, which they should.
Okay.
But I don't want them right off youth because, as Ed mentioned earlier with the sports fees, I don't say not to provide it because without that serious discussion, they won't be able to provide it.
Right.
I'm not in any way advocating serious discussion about assessments. I just want to make that clear.
Fair enough.
But I just what I think I heard. I don't want to speak for other directors, but I think what I heard from other directors, and I know what I stated is not just a question of cost share, but it seems like the school district should be putting in at least 50%, and that's only if that doesn't further put the Oak Park situation.
I think in the discussion with the school district, there's a balance of the value because we're also asking for access to pickleball courts.
Yeah.
So the original deal was we would build the volleyball courts on 100,000, and then they were going to provide us level access to the on campus. So now that the dollar amounts have changed a little, it'll probably be a discussion relative to the value of pickleball versus the value of sand volleyball.
Sure.
We haven't had those detailed conversations yet, but that'll probably be a part of the conversation.
How many courts do they have about pickleball, do you know?
So I'll let Zach handle that, but they got some on-campus courts that they're, go ahead.
Yeah, so in our conceptual conversations, they have two facilities that could be converted to dual-use pickleball. They have, I believe, 7 or 8 tennis courts on the high school campus. They also have 3 full-size basketball courts. They're in what they call the cage. If you're familiar with that campus, it's right off the main parking lot next to the gym. That would be the first location that we would prioritize with them. That would anticipate that we could get, I think, 6 new dual-strike pickleball courts in that area, which would relieve some of the stress on Deer Hill, especially on Saturday mornings. We've heard that from the neighborhood repeatedly about the need and the impact of those players on especially Saturday mornings at Deer Hill. So the concept would be to move some of that burden over to the high school, relieve some of the impact of the neighborhood, and allow some beach volleyball use at that location if this conversation moves forward as planned.
It's just my gut feeling that the Deer Hill neighborhood probably is going to be very sensitive to the idea of the sand volleyball.
We'll be able to answer that better after January 12th.
Have you gotten enough board direction?
I think so, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That takes us to item 10, written communications of note. Kate, did you have a written?
I have nothing written.
Oh, Dan?
Staff has none either, sorry, Chair.
Oh,
I had one member of the public ask, and they've asked repeatedly over the years. They were from Oak Park, and they saw the really cool program that we do with Letters to Santa Claus. Santa Claus, although is not a part of Christian tradition, is a part of Christianity and a part of Christmas. And they said, is there anything for the Jewish kids? And they brought this up repeatedly, and it becomes an issue where like, oh yeah, we'll work on that. But we're going to be inclusive. I mean, a Christmas tree is a Christmas tree, I get it, but it's a part of Christianity, it's a part of Christmas celebration. Then I think it would be pretty obvious we would have a menorah and other symbols of other religions because we're representing our whole community. But that was just one, and I didn't have a good answer, but last couple of years, you know, it's been a little bit chaotic, but I look forward to that part.
Excuse me, I'm just going to jump in here. The Letters to Santa Claus program, unfortunately, was not a program we planned this year. Someone had pulled that old flyer out of an old publication and reposted it on social media. We are accommodating any kids who are wanting a letter from Santa this year, but it was not an intentional program that we were planning on doing. That was a COVID kind of program that we offered the community. That being said, if you did notice, we put a certain in the Oak Park boat parade over the last weekend. We were very clear and deliberate in our intentions to celebrate all the holidays and not just the Christmas holiday or the Christianity holiday. So we are making those efforts.
And I do appreciate that. And I thought the Santa Claus, Cards to Santa Claus was pretty cool. So I wasn't knocking that part, and I appreciate the boat parade and all that.
Brian, if I could just comment, remember during COVID, things were closed down. So I think the board at the time had asked us to step up and do some kind of event or some type of activity. So that was the Letters to Santa that we came up with, but that wasn't necessarily intended to be an ongoing program at the time. So
we will make a note, and we will look for programming opportunities that are inclusive in both communities of both CME and Oak Park.
Appreciate it.
okay, that takes us to item 11, reports by board members. Director O'Brien, would you like to start?
Yes, I can. I just have a few minor items. I attended the swearing in for Mayor Thomas and council members, Judge and Rhodes, and it was a nice event. It was good to see. It was exciting. And I think the city council is going in a great direction. I look forward to working with all of them. One of my fellow Seroptonists walks her dog in African Park, and she asked, she said, is there any reason we can't put a sign there saying this is a people park, not a dog park, or something to that effect? Now, I know we have signs in some of our parks saying dogs, all of our parks I think dogs should be on leash and telling people where the dog park is. But apparently, it sounds like, at least in some parks, those signs are getting ignored. And she was concerned especially about that one because it's right on Alamo, and if a dog ran out in the street chasing a ball, it would be very tragic. So I don't know if we need to emphasize to people that dogs should be unleashed unless they're in the dog park. And this third thing is really kind of minor, but I noticed that with the new screen up here, the permanent screen, the chair can't see the clock. The chair should be able to see the clock. It's behind it. The clock behind us. If you could just relift.
Yeah.
You don't realize, but you're going to need that when you're.
I will say, during public comment, I was utilizing my cell phone and timing.
Okay, all right, good.
Yeah.
Yes,
Let's start the meeting on time, say 5-minute recess.
Move the clock to the other one.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so I didn't notice that either, but you know, yeah, you can't see it, so just can't be that hard to relocate the clock. That's all.
Director Denner, would you like to go next?
Ed and I attended the alt-rec celebration. It was a fun party. Santa Claus was there. The kids got to dance. The participants got to dance. There was food served. We're thankful for all the community groups that helped and volunteered to put together, and our staff members. It was a wonderful time. Our committees are coming up, and I have put in my request for committees, but I'm only commenting on this tonight. For our youth sports committee, one of the things they do is we have a soccer committee. If anyone that's interested in being on the youth sports committee, if either, maybe not both, but one person goes, awesome. If neither people that would like to be on it are available to that, I am available. I like going to those meetings to find out what they need long-term so we can put into long-term planning. I did listen, Ed, what you said about decision-making. Sometimes it's not like a decision being made at the committee, but it's, not making them come to a board meeting to the budget, but understand their ongoing needs. So if either of you are not available or not interested, I'll definitely be interested in that. And then happy Diwali, happy Hanukkah, happy Christmas, and happy winter solstice, the shortest day of the year. And one of those things that all these holidays have in common is lights, just because it's dark this time of the year. And all of them are saying, let's lighten it up a little bit, so I appreciate that. And lastly, unless we're closing the meeting in anybody else's memory, Josh asked that you adjourn in the memory of P22 tonight, the mountain lion that somehow survived crossing a freeway in the middle of one of the largest cities around, and was poisoned and survived that, was brought back to health, survives an urban park, and survived for many years until poisoned again by the actions of people choosing rodenticide, probably hit by a car and other health problems. So although the story might sound tragic, it's a story of survival and how important nature is to us. That's it for me.
Thank you. Director Ola, would you like to go next?
Thank you. Right. I'm going to add one item just for clarification. On the committee thing, what I was referring to in my address tonight has to do with the committees that are meeting for the sole purpose of doing park board business. I think the committees where we interact with others are fine, where we're getting their input. For the Strathern Committee, the Oak Park Committee, as you say, the Soccer Foundation, from the Youth Activities Committee. I don't have a problem with those because we're answering their questions or we're getting their input. So just so that's clear. So anyway, now to the things that I wanted to address. I want to, first of all, congratulate Raul Avila, who did get the LAFCO board position. He was our board's choice, and I think rightfully so. But I also want to, and I did this before, and I want to do it a little more, hopefully a little more smoothly tonight. I want to commend Josh on the way he handled that situation. When this was first presented to us, it was expressed that there was a need for an alternate, and Josh showed his leadership by stepping up and volunteering for that. And then it was pointed out that there would be issues that would affect us here locally, and Josh expressed interest in the permanent position. And I commend him for that too. That also showed leadership and caring for the community. So I really want to applaud you for that, Josh, even though you didn't get the alternate position. You were put in a difficult situation, and you just handled it admirably. And then finally, I will say what I said before on that topic, but you know, I'm not a big fan of the bureaucratic organizations myself anyway, and you know, the way this whole thing went down, even though I'm thrilled with the choice of Raul, the process just needs more transparency. I mean, you've got people voting on this thing who probably don't have a clue who any of the candidates are, maybe one, and that isn't informed voting. So, and that's something that I will likely be pursuing with those involved. The next thing I want to comment on, I did not attend, but I did see the social media, Facebook photos of the Oak Park holiday parade, and I know I saw Zach and Sandra in the photos. So for all those involved in putting that together, if it was anywhere close to as good as it looked in the photos, thank you to Zach, Sandra, and any of the staff who were involved in helping out with that, because as I say, if it was anywhere near as impressive as it looked, it seems like that was a great event, and all of you should be applauded for that. And then, as Brian mentioned, and I want to finish with this one because it was actually really special for me. You know, I try to get out and check out everything as a member of the park board, but I never have until this year made it to the alt-rec holiday party. just for example, as I've probably expressed over and over again, I'm not a fan of CSDA conferences, but I went to one. Kind of confirmed what I expected for my purposes. But for various reasons, I have never until this year, and I've got to correct that in the future, have I attended the Alt-Rec holiday party. And it brought back memories for me, because when I was a youth, and it's way too long ago, no, it is. I worked with special needs. It's decades ago. I worked with special needs youth, and you forget that you're not just there helping them, but they are such a help to you. They teach you lessons about patience and happiness and embracing the moment. And for me, that was truly a holiday highlight. And Brian and I have kind of met there, and I really appreciate that, because I know Brian's attended before, and was really comfortable in that environment. And it's Matt, I believe, right, who runs the program.
Yeah, Matt.
I chatted with Matt for a while, and he gave me some great input. I really thought that was a great event, and Brian, I think you'll probably share with me in this observation, based on the polling from the Alt-Rec party, if Santa ever decides to run for park board, I hope it's not an hour election cycle, because boy, did he get an enthusiastic reception, and that was great to see. But I'm glad I went. I've got to continue to do that in the future. I applaud everyone who put that on, our staff that's involved in the program, and I'll take one of those over 100 CSDA conferences anytime. That was just really special.
Thank you, Ed. And thank you for your kind words. Vice Chair Freeman.
Thank you. I'll give you an update because I wasn't here last time. So on November 18th, I attended Canal Recreation and Park District's 60th anniversary party held at the park, and it was really quite nice. They had, I would say, a couple hundred people there, and the best part was all the photos they had from their initial 1960s, as the park district progressed. So it was a really nice event. And then on the 22nd, I was on the ranch. Richard was kind enough to join me, and we went over all the programs that are coming up. Well, some of them have already occurred, actually. So it's always fun to do that. And then on the 1st, I attended Keith Mashburn's dinner, or was it dinner, hors d'oeuvres party for his, and we gave him a very nice plaque from the Park District. And I think he really appreciated that. And as part of that, I was thinking Supervisor Parks and Supervisor Huber are retiring, and if there's something we should do, something to consider for them, as outgoing county supervisors. I don't know what our past actions have been. I had a constituent mention to me that we have a lot of skunks at Rancho CV, and I hadn't heard that before.
Wayne is physically, so
I
Wayne would know,
I
and he
remember
hasn't
that.
He was very concerned about the
Rancho CV?
Yeah, Rancho CV.
I haven't gotten
skunks,
anything like that.
Squirrels are one thing, skunks are something else.
Yeah.
So if we can check that out, I'd appreciate it.
Elaine, I'm not complaining about the skunks. I know they're part of wildlife and all. But when my dog got sprayed, I used tomato juice and I used soap, like they say. Nothing worked. It's just time.
Yeah.
We washed that dog multiple times. I didn't have a good leash with me. I had a leash, but not like a harness. So I couldn't put her in the back of my truck. She had to sit in the back seat. I had to leave my truck windows open for months.
Yes.
I had it detailed, washed, and I just figured, you can't steal my car, you're gonna smell like a skunk. So in the middle of summer, I couldn't leave the windows up for months. I just leave it open. Nobody took my car, so that was nice.
Tomato juice.
I tried.
Brian, I only remember that event because I remember the things your wife, Melody, appropriately, properly had to say about where you decided to put the dog in the car after the skunk.
Oh yeah, I mean, I touched my phone case, and I tried to wash it. I had to get a new phone case. Those skunks are impressive.
And I just want to say I'm sorry I missed the holiday party. It's always really great to get together with everybody. So I thought about you guys on that meet on Friday night. And I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year. And hope that 2023 is really good for all of us and for the district. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to say learning things all the time. I will say in my enthusiasm of becoming chair and enthusiasm for the Park District, I completely failed to thank my family and my fiance and cousins and friends who showed up and on Zoom. So I'll be making plenty of phone calls after the meeting. But I will say, in case anybody does listen back, they will have evidence that I'll thank my dad and my mom who were in the audience, my Aunt Cindy, my fiance Amy, my cousin Jack, a great volunteer 2 years ago who knocked on doors with me, Alex, was on Zoom. And there are so many people in this community and in my family and in friends who I also owe large debts to and gratitude to for all that they have done and in being supportive of, not just during the campaign, but making sure being on the board is fruitful and they keep an ear out and they pass information along too. So I do want to say thank you to all those people who have helped me be here. And then I will throw out there, I know we discussed it briefly, but I have seen a large degree of enthusiasm for the Teen Center on January 20th online. I know I shared that to a few private groups and we're trying to get Richard in there so we can answer some questions. But I will say I've shared in that group plenty of times, and this is the first time where I had, a dozen questions within a few hours. And I think that those questions just show how much of a need we're going to be meeting here and how much enthusiasm there is. I attended the Ed Foundation meeting last Friday. They're looking for ways to fundraise and looking forward to 23 and continuing the great work they do. And then Brian and I also had a separate conversation with Richard and some other staff on social media and how we might be able to bring experiment with some levity in posts in the future and show off some of our Park District and Park and staff's sense of humor when it is appropriate. So I'm very excited about that, and thank you to Richard and all the other staff that joined us to listen to Brian and I just chat about how to be funny. Other than that will conclude my report and take us to item 12, report by district manager.
Thank you, Chair. As a follow-up to Director Avila's comments regarding LAFCO, I did reach out at your direction to the LAFCO Executive Director regarding your suggestion for a more transparent process. He did let me know in the past that VSCSDA used to hold a little candidates forum, which is the arm of us. So he did say we had done that in the past, but this year we did not do that. So I just want to let you know I did follow up, and we could do some more follow-up if you'd like to see that happen down the road.
I just let me comment. I know the president of Ventura County Special Districts invited those candidates, or he was supposed to speak at the last Ventura County Special Districts Association meeting. And there were some there. A couple of them. I forgot.
We need to do a better job of advertising that opportunity. MLK Day of Service, we continue to advertise and market that and take volunteers. We do have some projects planned out. The projects we kind of have to size between how big the volunteer list is and how it grows, but the ones we have picked out now are doing some painting on the bocce ball court fence at Tapo, doing some more fence work and parking lot work at Strathern, sanding and reselling the bridge at Vista del Arroyo. Not exactly sure what that entails, but it sounds like a big project. Doing some curb work at May Boyer and Oak Park, and doing picnic tables and the pavilion painting the splash pad at Oak Canyon Community Park. So Those are the tentative project lists, and that will be sized accordingly depending on the interest we get in the project. Did review our November financials, where those are all in good order. Thinking a couple of things on the grant. Some good news. There's a couple grant opportunities from CDF and also Cal Wildfire related to fire resiliency. And we've got Community Quest again in Oak Park relative to invasive species, and we've got a fire council out there, so I'm giving thought to potentially applying for some of those grant opportunities to complete the work that they've been asking for. In that particular case, as I think about it, most of that would be outside funding sources that wouldn't be district money, so giving some thought to that. I do have good news. Our staff, worked jointly with the city on an application for Arroyo Cine Phase 5. So the phase that we got money for from Santa Monica Mountains a couple of years was Phase 4. We, looking ahead, did that, and it's a little quirky, but we did get approval for a $750,000 grant for Phase 5. That being said, we originally applied at the state level. The estimate for the project in total is about 1.3. The original application went to the state of California, and it required a 10% match. At the time, the board had agreed to split the match with the city. This particular grant was denied at the state level, but it was picked up at the county level by the Ventura County Transportation Commission and some money that they have. The match on this is the difference between $750,000 and $1.3. So the match commitment to this grant is quite a bit higher than what was originally anticipated when we submitted it. That being said, I did receive the city again called and said that they would be willing to pay for half of the 500 or so thousand in order to put together a project budget for Phase 5. I will have to bring you guys an item to get your thoughts on providing a higher match than originally anticipated. So good news, we got that, but the states, they're asking us to put more money into it than we have in the past, so more to come on that.
I know this isn't for discussion, just
Yeah.
a question. So what the city is tentatively willing to provide would be more than they would have originally expected to provide.
Correct. We both historically, if there's a local match, we both agreed as partners to split the match amount. So in keeping with that, I think we'd be looking at not that it has to be that way, but in the partnership, that's what we've been doing with the match on the grant projects on the Arroyos.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Something I've noticed on the Arroyo recently is I've never seen it more popular.
Right.
And people are using it for recreation, obviously, but more people just for transportation. And it's really hard to retrofit streets for bike lanes. So I see it as just part of the transportation system of the city. So I'm excited that the city wants to work with us on it too.
Excellent. It's another, more revenue, so it's awesome now. We'll get that on a future agenda for you, get formal direction on that. Just real quick on the golf course, we've decided to move forward with the repair of the golf course fence. I mentioned this in case you guys are hearing from the community on it. The staff and I met, and it's a $13,000 fix at this point, so we're going to move forward with that, and that's within staff's authority to get that repair work done.
Repairs on what? I'm sorry, I missed that.
The fence at Simi Hills Golf Course that I've talked about, that's in ill repair, so we're moving forward with that. The complaints about e-motorcycles are kicking up quite a bit. We've got some specifically in Oak Park. Director Dennert had emailed in and shared some educational information. I think he's gotten some complaints as well. Just wanted to, as a way of follow-up, wanted to let you know we are putting together a little public education campaign. And then in those areas where there are e-motorcycles in our parks, we're kind of directing the rangers out there to start with some education and then also to do some more some enforcement and citation writing if necessary. So just wanted you to know, Brian, we're following up on that with Richard and the ranger team.
The specific thing I saw in Caneo they did was a post of the differences. An e-bike you have to pedal, so that's exercise, and they cut off 20 miles an hour. I've seen just motorcycles. They're just motorcycles. They just happen to be electric motorcycles. but they're driving really fast in the Arroyo, and some of them, I don't know the ages, but they look like they might not have a driver's license, they might be that young, and they're driving on the streets, and they don't have a license plate on their vehicle. If you're driving a motorcycle, you need a driver's license. Sometimes they're in the bike lane, but they're going the speed of cars. And the reason I brought it up is it's timely. Is with holidays coming up, I'm frustrated if somebody gets sold one thinking they're allowed to use it. So you buy this new bike and you thought you were allowed to use it because nobody told you no. And then once you get it, you find out, oh no, that's not a bike, that's a motorcycle. So just imagine young families getting really excited they bought this new toy and found out it's banned because it's a motorcycle. But they're going to get more popular, and I get the education part, but there's going to be a time when they get cited. Because it is, mountain bikers are concerned because some of them tear up trails pretty hard.
Yeah, we're seeing quite a bit more usage of the e-motorcycle, so we're going to try to get out ahead of that if we can. We are Rangers. We held first interviews. We're doing second interviews the first week of January. We have 2 vacant positions, so we're hopeful there. And we have second interviews scheduled with the finalists for the first week of January. Your board meeting schedule, January 4th is your next board meeting. We'll have committee assignments. A question regarding the Equestrian Center. If the board will recall, we had folks from the Equestrian Center asking us to do some maintenance work on the equestrian facility. I want to get some direction from the board based on different alternatives and how much work we want to do at the Equestrian Center. That'll be on the 4th. And then also Director Dennert had asked for the naming policies to come back. That'll be on your November 4th meeting. Your January 18th meeting, we're going to do a CAP project update. We're going to bring back a discussion on softball field lights and also the discussion regarding pickleball court fees that came up a month or so ago. So that's January 18th. That concludes my report. We have no committee meetings scheduled of note. And I also want to let the board know, I'll send out an email. I'm taking off next week between Christmas and New Year's, which I have done, and Ms. Pennington will graciously serve as the acting general manager, district manager during those days that I'm gone. Obviously, but I'm also available, obviously, as I am always to you guys in the event you need me in the moment. So, thank you.
You enjoy your holiday. That takes us to item 13, closed session.
Yes, we do have a closed session this evening.
There's a request for a quick break prior to the closed session. Can we take 5 minutes?
Sure. Actually, if we could have Brian read the appropriate language, taking us into closed session, then we will break.
Sounds good. Closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.95. The claimant is Cindy Bluebow, and the agency claimed against is the Rancho Semu Recreation and Park District.
Are we coming back?
Are we coming back? I would imagine we would.
We don't know. We may or may not have reportable action, so we will be coming back, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Stephen, you good? You alive?
Yep.
Okay, good. Rio, back from closed session. Announce that we're back from closed session.
We are back from closed session.
And ask the attorney, yeah, you got it.
Will you please read the result?
Yes. The Board of Directors voted to reject the claim.
Thank you. Is there anything else we need? Are we ready to adjourn?
In the memory of?
Yeah.
We usually send a letter. Where do I send the letter?
I don't know, stop and figure it out.
So we will adjourn this evening in memory of P22, who brought global attention to local nature and how we interact and live with our environment. This meeting is adjourned at 9:10.